see this happening. Here we are. Hi, ladies. Hi.
Hi.
Meg.
Oh my gosh. Hi. Okay, so we are coast to coast right now, and let's sit down with two stand-up people, and I'm going to stay seated. But in the middle is Amy Berry. Hi, Amy. And on
Hi,
our
Meg.
far side is Teresa from California. So we have Amy from Massachusetts and Teresa from California. Yeah. So let's
Hi.
start. Teresa, would you do me a favor? And I love that you have a master's in education. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You bet. And you're coming through. I can hear you loud and clear. Um,
Hey.
what I question is, the dog training background. What did you do to get where you are now?
Well, I first moved out to California in 2002, and my mom came to visit and saw an ad in the paper when we used to actually look for ads in the paper about jobs. And it was in the Sunday paper for a kennel technician at the Helen Woodward Animal Center out
Oh
here.
my gosh, very famous, Helen Woodward. What's their address? Are they in Rancho Santa Fe?
Rancho Santa Fe.
Okay.
Yeah, so just down the road from me now. I'm in Rancho Bernardo. So, and my son has actually taken some programs there. So it's pretty come full circle the whole way around here. But I applied for the position, and I knew it was just working with dogs and cleaning kennels, cleaning out cat cages and areas, isolation areas, and just pretty much the full gamut of a lot of cleaning. And I've always loved animals. So as a kid, my grandfather was always really excited to go with me on hikes in the woods, and we would sit and just watch the birds, and I would take notes, and I'd sit underneath picnic tables and listen for the birds and think, maybe if I sat long enough, they'd come up to me. So I was always very interested in behavior in general. And so going to the Helen Woodward Animal Center, I learned through cleaning and through going into all these dogs' kennels what was appropriate and what was not appropriate in terms of approaching a dog safely, and also, allowing them to see that I was non-threatening. And a lot of that came from just trial and error of walking straight in and noticing dogs would back up and saying, oh, okay, I've got to angle myself. And then a lot of it also came from one of the trainers that started with us that was bringing the positive reinforcement method into the center. Whereas before they were using some, different methods of leash handling that were not as, they're a little intimidating, but that was the way back then.
What we used to call it 20 years ago was corrective.
Right. And that's
right. Okay, right.
Leash popping, they call it,
right.
Where you keep
which
popping at the leash to hope the dog will look at you and stop doing what
which is nothing we do now. Sometimes we do it with loud noises, we'd stomp our feet or what. No, don't do that anymore.
Right. So they brought in a positive reinforcement trainer who completely revamped everything that we knew as workers there, as technicians, just working with the dogs in general. And they just helped us to understand through a lot of, just staff meetings where there were people asking tons of questions about, well, how am I supposed to encourage this dog who I don't know to listen to me or to want to be with me? And
so it's all about, so what you say, it's all about communication, and then what you let them teach you. That's what it sounds like.
And the dogs, the dogs always will be my greatest teacher, no matter what. I feel like every dog I've ever worked with, even in just going into kennels and cleaning from way back then, that has taught me of what works, what doesn't work, and that each dog is so individual. And it's just, trying to understand and read that body language well enough that you can present yourself as non-threatening. And that I worked with, he just said, you're going to have to go in and clean out these kennels, even with dogs who are not okay with you necessarily touching them or being close to them. But I'm going to show you what you can do to make sure you appear as somebody who is completely non-threatening. And it was...
That is perfect. Absolutely, isn't it? That is perfect.
And I think that's a magical world there.
Right. And before we started, Amy and I were talking about people, because a lot of times it's not just us, in a kennel with a dog, and oh my God, that's bliss for anybody that's listening, right? I mean, that's bliss for a dog person. It's you, me, and that's it in the environment. But then we throw the people in there, and this is tough. So Amy and I were talking. So Amy, we were talking, and we talked about this a little bit, and the best behavior for best listening. But Amy is my BlackWing Farms guru at this point. She uses so many different remedies with so many different clients and customers, and I think that what Teresa was talking about was listening to the animal behavior. And how do you, Amy, how do you help people? Then how do you teach them? Tell me, what do you do? What's your technique?
So I do a lot of group classes, and I tell them that you're learning a new language. You're learning dog language, and dogs are learning human language. So it's like learning a foreign language. So I will use best behavior spray to help them out with a dog that's completely tuned out. This is for a dog that's tuned out to their person, and they just want to look at everybody else in the room. And even treats don't work for some of our dogs that come in. So so it's really I feel like a foreign language teacher, where the best behavior will definitely help the whole situation. It'll help the human, even though the human doesn't realize it's helping, because I say it's for your dog. But in the end, I try to just, say, okay, we're going to help you communicate better.
Perfect, because that's why. So best behavior, when I first started using it, people were coming up to me, okay, the new word in the last 5 years is calm. I want my dog to be calm. And I'm going, no, you don't. You want your dog to feel safe right now in this environment and focused. So I push back on that. The word calm, which I love for a dog, but it's not about that. It's about calm focus. And we were just talking about APT, Association of Professional Dog Trainers. I did a webinar, and it was called Calm Focus 24/7. Because we do want them calm, but we do want them focused on their environment. So if I'm not in the same room and they're taking a nap and something startles them, I want them to wake up, look around. Don't react and redirect on the first person you see, right? So with the best behavior years ago, I used that because people were telling me, this was the buzzword 10 years ago, that their dogs were stubborn. And they wouldn't learn, and they wouldn't focus on them, and they wouldn't do this and wouldn't do that. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, that is actually a pattern of learning that's already been established.
Right. I hear stubborn a lot. I'm sure you do too.
Okay, so that's the best behavior, because, and then we look around and, again, we say to the person, how many times have we all heard, the dog is great when he's with me. And then when he goes home, or he goes to, or you hand him back off to the owner. And I think it's because a couple of things. Of course, we understand the language, but we also have a bit of a pause that allows us to say, what are you going to do next?
Yeah.
And I think
that's people don't know as much as we know about reading dogs. So it's a process, and I think that using the best behavior spray can help, make an adjustment on behalf of the dog to go, less about the outside, about whatever's happening outside, and more about what you're asking them to do. And then you have to be, I say this very often to the people I'm teaching, I say, you have to be the most exciting and interesting thing to that dog. Among everything that's around you, you have to be the best and the most exciting.
Okay, and that is wonderful. Everybody knows, I think, Dr. Ian Dunbar, and he did the, I forget what's he called. Oh, he calls it the happy dance. It's the happy dance, and he dances in this dignified Englishman, in a tweed jacket with elbow patches, and he's doing this happy dance backing up. And I think that's interesting. I think that, Teresa, when you were talking about Helen Woodward, you don't walk into a kennel and lean over, or you don't, because that again is very intimidating. It's like a horse with the, with the top of their neck, or the top of their back. It's a very vulnerable place. So yeah, so I like this about the better listening, and I like this about the communication. I think that's so, so important. So do you have a, Amy, do you have a like a trick? Meaning, not that you trick them, but is there something that you do that can, I don't know about you guys, but I'm never going to pull a terrier off, off of focusing on a squirrel. It's just, it's just, let's not go there.
It's more interesting than a squirrel, that's for sure.
That's almost impossible.
Exactly. Thank you. Exactly. And the thing is that it gives them such joy to just stare at them. So, but the thing is that how do we get their focus? Because we're talking about calm focus. How do you get their focus? I mean, what you say you need to be the high value reward. How do you do that, Amy?
So, like you were saying about the happy dance, I've changed that a little bit into happy talk. So using your very highest, and with men, it's a little bit harder. Some women can do it easier than men, but using your happy talk, pop, 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 or using your kissy sounds, or just those high voice, and using their name in a high voice will often turn them to see what is, what should I look at, because that sounds exciting to the dogs. So that's usually my first go-to, is the happy talk. I tell them to do happy talk along the whole route of their walk, so that even though they're looking at things along the walk, they know you're still there and you're still telling them about your day. You could tell them anything in that voice, and they're going to pay attention, at least with one of their ears, as you're walking.
That's good. With one of their ears. I mean, we'll be happy with that. Teresa, I'm going to ask you the same question, but first I want to say, we interviewed Sam Wyke from the Inner Dog in New Jersey, and the man is brilliant. He's just amazing. And Sam said, he goes, if all else fails on your walk, sing to your dog. Sing. And I'm like, sing. And Sam goes, I'm not a good singer, but when I sing to my dog, sometimes it makes me laugh, or it makes me, so again, but like what you're saying is that possibly a sing-songy voice, but for a man, it could be singing and laughing at themselves. And, when the wife hears him coming home, going, oh boy, he's singing again. But yeah, so, and this is a man who trained police dogs and service dogs. I mean, he's just, Sam Wyke, he's an amazing man. But so Teresa, what's your trick? What's your fun thing to do?
Well, you bring up a really good point, because I think if the person is feeling comfortable, and just like Amy was saying too, if you're releasing an expression that helps you to shake out your anxiousness about the way your dog might be behaving, or the way that you feel, you might even anticipate some rehearsed behaviors that your dog has on a walk, like mouthing or...
Wow, rehearsed behaviors. Hang on, that's brilliant. I've never heard that.
We use it all the time. We have come up with a lot of ways to explain things to people, because dogs, training dogs is so much about training people. So rehearsed behaviors, I feel, can be anything, along in any situation. But on the walk, a dog could start to mouth if they feel frustrated, or maybe their person is on the phone and they're not paying attention, and the dog is feeling a little bored because they want to move on, and the person stopped, or whatever it is, and they start mouthing the leash, or the person just anticipates that, oh boy, when we get to this one area at this point in time on the walk, I know that this dog is going to start mouthing me. I know this is going to happen. So they tense up, or they start to, feel anxious. And so singing or doing something that I always tell them, if you start to feel you're going to tense that leash, immediately go for a treat in your pocket, gain some focus with your dog by using a positive tone or sing-song voice, the same thing, and just saying, hey buddy, look up here, and give them something, because that's your way of releasing this, let's get past this. And if your dog thinks that you are feeling okay, then they're going to generally, that's going to translate right down the leash to them as, okay, things are okay. We're not tensing at this spot that maybe you pass another dog who is in a fenced area that barks at you every time. And so you're anticipating your dog's going to start barking, or, so you start to get all, tightened up and ready to brace yourself for that. But instead of that, Distancing yourself, that's also, what I always suggest is anytime you feel nervous, distance yourself with your dog, make it positive, make it happy, do a salsa step,
Tell me about that. What do you mean by distancing yourself from your dog while on leash?
As we've all become familiar with the term social distancing, we have been using this in training for years. The importance of social distance for dogs. They're all about it. They like to be able to assess what's approaching so that it's not just head on, because if you look at dogs off leash, they're weaving, they're turning, they're doing things with their bodies to communicate that they can't necessarily do on leash, especially on a 6-foot leash. And some people who are holding them even tighter than that. So their movement is limited, and their ability to communicate so well that they do off leash with their body is very restricted. So if they are able to gain some distance from something that might trigger a reaction from them, then the further away they are from it, the easier it is to handle, the calmer they stay, and then they learn, hey, I've passed this, nothing bad happened, and I could do it again maybe next time. And, and also pairing that positive talk with them of just with a quick, what I usually do is just a quick, this way, when I start to see that something is coming toward us that I think, this dog, I'm not sure about them, I don't know them well, they might be not okay with this rumbling UPS truck coming toward us 5 blocks away. So what I'm going to do now is this way, and we're going to start heading the other way before it gets too close. So proactively working to prevent reactions rather than reacting to them is what I generally always try to impart on any walk with any dog, especially dogs I've just met and don't know what their triggers are. And so just lots of positive tones, like Amy was saying, and distancing.
And interesting what you just said, because we also don't know, when we hand the leash back to the owner, what the owner's triggers are. So let's be honest there that, we're, we're dealing with a lot of history, rehearsed behavior, memory. Wow. So
absolutely.
Amy, so you and I don't know if you know this about me, but I think on every FAQ, and I don't even know if I have them on the bottles, but what I always say too is, for the owners, spray your own hands with these flower essences and homeopathy, and then gently pet your dog. I know it's a win-win then. It's a win-win situation. Because a lot of times the dogs are very confident, and I put this up because we were talking earlier, confidence in a group setting. Dog park, group classes, a neighbor coming over to visit, can our dogs have a play date, whatever it is. And so, a lot of times the dogs are fine. The owners don't know the behavior, so they think it's inappropriate, or the owners are lacking confidence. So when you were talking about your group classes, what do you find there?
So with confidence spray, I find that's one of my go-to sprays in a class of any level where I see the dog is not engaging with their environment at all. They're hiding under the chair. They're hiding behind their person. Wow. So this happens, somewhat frequently, and I will walk over and say, would you mind if I use this homeopathic spray? It only takes a few minutes to take effect, and it should help your dog's confidence. And there it is. Meg has it. I always have
drinking water, but don't tell anybody.
I love that. So I will ask them, is it okay? I'll ask their permission. Is it okay if I just spray a little of this around your chair, a little bit around your legs? But that's good advice, Meg, where I could I don't generally ask them to put their hand out. Can I put this on your hand? But that's a great idea. And, can I put a little on your hand and you pet your dog?
Right.
I will just generally spray it or on my hand and pet their chest a little bit if they'll let me. So confidence is a really great spray for when they're in a group and they're nervous.
And I think sometimes too, I love humans. I mean, I am one. So, but I love humans. But the thing is that I think sometimes we want to fix everything. Our ego says, I can do it all. And we get up against these this past history or this, past trauma that the animals have, and it is so deep rooted. Let's talk, we can talk about post-traumatic stress all day long, because I think as one friend who's a therapist, he said the whole nation is post-traumatic. Literally, from whatever it is, whether it's a personal experience or not. I'll tell you a secret. I've been secretly using this. I'm looking around, make sure nobody listens. On a horse that I saw being afraid, spooking at things, always on the right side. I'm wondering about his vision, etc. And he would be punished for these behaviors. And because the rider gets scared, and the first thing that happens after fear is anger, correct? That's a human, that's a human trade-off. We get afraid, we get angry. And so I've been putting it in his water, and I watched day 2. He was so much better. Day 3, he went straight into the arena. There was no adverse correction is what I'll call it, because in the horse world, there's still a lot of steel bits in the mouth, spurs and whips, and it's something that we can all, address, but we can't sweep it under the rug, like seeing a prong collar or seeing a shock collar. And people are calling, well, it's just a little battery. It's only got a little I go, your voice is better than a battery. So I love that. And tell me about groups. What's the hardest thing for people in a group setting with their dogs?
It's usually the hardest thing is that their dog is interested in seeing the other dogs, seeing the other people, and they're not focused on their person. So best behavior can be helped. You can spray it in the room before they even come in to help with that. But it is a challenge. We have to ask them to use their voice and their body language to call their dogs back to them, and their food lures, rather than the as Teresa said before, those leash pops, those get back here, harsh corrections.
Right.
So I would say that's one of the, especially a beginner class, but we see it going into intermediate sometimes where that habit sticks around. And so I would say that's the hardest thing.
You know what? You guys are not going to believe this, but we're already at 23 minutes. I can't believe it that it went this fast. But again, just really fast, there's 2 things that I want to talk about. Universal communication, because I love that line. Of course, my new line now is rehearsed behavior. Oh, that's a blog. That's a blog coming. But universal communication, if we can each address that for a minute, and then I'd love to know about either your favorite book or your best mentor or something like that, who you've learned from. So, but tell me real quick, Teresa, universal communication.
So a dog in Siberia can communicate with the dog in California.
Brilliant.
Problem. They meet each other on the street. They're going to be able to figure out who's doing what's appropriate, what's not, what the other dog thinks is okay, if they're allowed to approach, if they're not allowed to approach. And all of that happens in several seconds, since dogs go through so many different steps, basically four steps that kind of start off with saying, okay, I'm going to ignore you because I'm not sure if I want to interact with you, avoiding eye contact. If you get too close, I might growl a little bit. If you get even closer and don't respond to my back off signal, I might do a little air snap. And if you still keep coming back, I might have to bite you. But so what we explain to people all the time is that our body language affects so much the way that our interaction goes with every single dog we meet. And it affects that dog's ability to trust us. And because we all have such different gestures, where, I talk with my hands a lot. I had to learn in working with herding breeds who had already known, many cues, but had some anxious behaviors and different things going on behaviorally, that if I was using my hands to talk with their person, they were actually looking for a cue. They were watching and seeing if I was, they were kind of looking like, what is she doing? Should I sit? Should I lay down? Should I do? And I realized very quickly, doing a little experiment I had worked with, I remember specifically a border collie, that I noticed him kind of looking, and I thought, while I'm talking, let me just do a sit cue while I'm still looking over here. And he knew immediately, and then I'd do it down and I'd have my hand going here. He was watching the minute details of my movements. And even in that, you know, that was in the beginning of my training career, just really learning how subtle our changes in behavior affect the dog, and how the dog is looking for those subtleties within each other to be able to communicate so quickly and so efficiently and effectively with other dogs. So they expect us to know that language too. And that's what Amy and I do, is we always try to draw parallels between human body language and dog body language, and teach people the differences between, well, it's totally understanding that you want to nurture this dog who's feeling upset or worried by going up, touching their face or hugging them or sitting next to them. But if they're looking away from you, that's a very clear signal that they really aren't ready to interact right now. You want to show them that you're supportive. Your way of supporting right now would be to walk away. And it's tough for people. So learning that universal dog language is tough.
And it's difficult. Exactly. And it's difficult for people to, you know, to say, no, I know how to fix this. And they get closer and closer. So, but Amy, speaking of which, we were talking again before we were talking about communication at doors, gates. It's, you know, tell us about that. And what do you, please.
Okay, sure. Well, I meet a lot of clients where their dogs are hesitant, exactly what you said, to cross a threshold, to cross a transition into someplace else. Oftentimes it'll be to get in the car. So I feel that what helps best with that is the Courage and Trust spray, or the Brave spray. A little bit of that. I think that it has that effect on the human as well, almost a placebo. There is a bit of the placebo. Well, if we're using some of the balms or flower essences in the car, and you know, maybe on our dog a little bit, then it kind of, they move from this can't work, this is not going to happen, I can't do it, to yes, it kind of gives them the courage, the person the courage, as well as the dog, helping the dog along to get in the car or to get through the door. So it is really, it's so much of a team effort between the human and the dog.
Yes, that is the word, team. That's the word, because again, like I said, you know, the three of us would be very happy to be in a room full of dogs with no other humans, but you know, and then we're part of a team, and so then we need to, you know, again, that communication, and to tell people that it is okay when they hesitate, when they snip, when they, you know, all these things, even when they look away, you know, am I going to be safe when I get in the car? What's behind me? You know, they need to know their environment. And I think that's what I love about flower essences. And again, being schooled during crises, you know, I used to be with San Diego Humane evacuating horses in fires, but we needed to know, you know, how safe do you feel right now in your environment? And let's get you into this comfy, cozy, soft, cushiony trailer, and let's get you out of here. You know, if you get in this trailer, the embers in the air will go away. So, I mean, all of this, and this is like, this can be, and that might sound extreme, but not to that dog who's hesitant to get in a car. It's still a box. It's a box. It's like, oh, I don't know if I want it. Okay, I cannot believe we're out of time. I cannot believe it. This just screamed by. I hope we get part 2 sometime this year.
Okay.
So, give me one book and one author. Whoever or whatever. Teresa, who, what? One book.
My one book is definitely The Other End of the Leash by Patricia McConnell. And I actually have it right here. It's propping up.
Can you show us the copy?
There you go. Oh, wait.
Show it.
There it is.
Okay. And repeat that again. It's Patricia.
Why we do what we do around dogs. I absolutely love this book. I 800 times, and I always feel like it's just
I think anything by McConnell, anything.
Anything really. I mean, there's so much.
Amy, who do you have?
We touched on him earlier, Ian Dunbar, and I don't have the book right in front of me, so it's something about teaching your puppy. But I actually don't. And what I love about him, he gives such a good description of why teaching your dog toys are appropriate to chew on versus chewing on inappropriate things. And he really goes into a lot of detail about how to get your puppy started on the right foot.
I love it. I love it. Thanks, you guys. Coast to coast, bark and roll, coast to coast. The information to get in touch is right there. Thanks, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.